Right. Nearly got snowed in today. It was that loads of snow, and then it kind of cleared up.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot here at all, actually. Only a little spattering this morning. That was about it.
Yeah, it took me 2 hours to get to work, and it,
Oh,
it normally takes me about just an hour. It should take me about 20 minutes without traffic. But
we grind to a halt with a bit of snow, don't we?
yeah. Right. Link out. Here's my phone. GSM sound. Just turn it off. Right. Start the recorder. Okay. Levels look good.
Good.
Right. There's a Chinese new refresh tower. Right. Daniel Vieira, welcome to the show. Or welcome back to the show, I should say.
Thanks, Ian. Glad to be back.
Yes, and I'm glad you're here because it would have been a short and quiet show this week because Jason's. Well, he says he's got to work, but I think he's really playing with an iPad mini. You know what he's like for iPads now.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's got a stash of them, and he
Yeah,
likes to get them all out and in a row.
I think so. I think you've got it there. I think when they say protest too much, I think that's what it is. Anyway, he says he loves the iPad. I've got that on the show anyway. And Gary is he's actually ill, so he sent me a message saying he's ill. Although he's probably I don't know, try to win an iPad or something like that.
Most likely.
Yeah. Actually, he wants a Surface. I think he wants to win a Surface, but he's not got one of those yet. Right. Well, we've got plenty to talk about tonight anyway. I'm glad you're on the show because we've got a few Xbmc and Media Browser and MediaPortal things to talk about. We'll catch up on where you're up to with those things as well. Plenty of news items to talk about as well. So let's just start off then. We'll do a recap because it's been a while since you were last on the show. So what are you currently using? Are you back on MediaPortal or Media Center, or what are you up to?
Still on MediaPortal as a back end, but I'm totally on the Xbmc as front ends now. I'm using OpenELEC in the bedroom system, and downstairs I'm just using my old Media Center still with the Windows installation, but with running Xbmc as the front end.
Right. So when you're running, so MediaPortal is your sort of TV server essentially, is it?
Yeah. Just I've still got it. I've still got the client installed as well. Just in case. But I never hardly ever use it. But I've got the TV server, the client, and also Xbmc installed on the same machine. And I'm using the plugin, the Xbmc plugin, using that as the front end basically for TV.
Right. And on Xbmc, then, are you using the PVR features? Because I've not really got grips on that side of it yet. So I know it's got the new PVR features in Frodo, but do you need to use those to consume TV? Because I didn't think you kind of did really.
Yeah, basically, yeah. What I normally do, I don't tend to record a lot of stuff that I don't have set up anyway. But you can, the PVR features are pretty good on Xbmc. They're not as thorough and as detailed as the MediaPortal client, obviously. Like for example, you can't do series recording and things like that. But what I tend to do is I use I've got there's a little web plugin called iPimp for MediaPortal, which was designed for iOS devices, but it works on anything like Android and everything, and that gives me a EPG, and it gives me the ability to set recordings and series recordings and that. So I tend to use that on my Nexus 7 to do any recordings and stuff like that I want to do, and unless obviously it's an ad hoc recording I'm spotting on the guide on XBMC, and then I can record direct from that. But in terms of the PVR functionality, apart from series recording, it's pretty much got everything there. It's got a very good EPG. And if it's set up correctly with the genres and stuff, you get a nice color-coded EPG. You can do recordings, as I said, for one-off shows, and you can play obviously your back recordings that you've already recorded, and things like that. And basically view the guide. You can do searches and everything like that. Actually, it's well improved since the Frodo Xbmc 12 came out. There's a few little extra touches they've put in that have actually improved, for example, searching the guide and things like that, and searching upcoming shows and things. Whereas they weren't quite there with 11, because in 11 the PVR functionality was sort of pasted into it. It wasn't supposed to be there originally, and until 12, which actually officially supported it. And you can tell because there's a lot of extra little bells and whistles there, especially in the search. And you can do an advanced search where you can search particular channels and particular times and days and things like that. It's really quite nice.
Yeah. So the way that your center configuration is, so MediaPortal is sort of the back end server, and then Xbmc clients around the home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So upstairs, I recently switched to a native OpenELEC build. Just installed it on my spare little net box, and it works brilliantly. You know, the speed's there and everything. I no longer needed to have a Windows installation on that machine, so I just wiped it and put OpenELEC on there, because I got a separate little device for Netflix, because that was the only thing that was sort of keeping me on Windows upstairs. And it's great. You know, the speed is there. It's a lot nippier, and you know, the actual I find that it can be a lot more intuitive, the way it works in the Linux builds. It could be most my imagination, but I suppose because it's a dedicated build just for Xbmc, it seems better.
Yeah, I think that I like the OpenELEC for that reason. It just seems to, well, it is. I suppose it is cut down. You've not got a lot of the overheads as you would have with a sort of a full distro, like installing Ubuntu or something like that.
Yeah, and exactly, and also it's very well. It caters for network discoverability as well. I've found, because it's so easy to put things on there. It's all pre-configured. So if you're on a Windows network, it already appears on there, and you can put things in specific folders that are already pre-configured. So if you've got DVD rips or whatever, you can put it straight in there, and it's pre-configured to find them. And also you can do updates, manual updates via the update. There's an update folder in there you can literally straight upload stuff to, and it's all discoverable very easily. So it's quite user friendly, I found.
Yeah, it sounds a good setup. I mean, I've got something similar. I'm using DVB Link, and I'm just about, I think I mentioned last week, I'm going to move it onto the machine with a Freeview HD card. But I've got sort of that with content going to the PC upstairs and the Raspberry Pi. So, but I like the idea of the MediaPortal. You can just stick your tuners in there, and I think it looks like it could be an interesting project to sort of rebuild around that.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I'd say DVB Link's a fantastic product. And if you need the obviously I don't need to have a lot of Windows machines, but obviously if you have a lot of different types of devices, it's definitely the best product to have for network tuning and things like that, because that's the sort of the weakness of MediaPortal. It is the sort of network, unless you've got a specific plugin or client. It's not as easy to get on various devices as DVB Link. That's the strength of DVB Link, is built around sort of network tuners, whereas MediaPortal, you can do it with certain plugins and certain mobile apps, but it's not quite there. And to be honest, it's not their focus. So you're sort of limited a little bit there. So if you've got a variety of devices, DVB Link definitely a good product for that. But I mean, if you're wanting a sort of If you've got a set device, you've got Linux and Windows devices and things like that that have Xbmc or MediaPortal clients, and you're good to go with MediaPortal.
Yeah. Now, one of the items that I was going to mention that came up today anyway is MediaPortal 1.3 release candidate. So, what version of MediaPortal are you running?
I'm still on the sort of, I'm on the stable sort of 1.2.3. I don't see a big need to swap over, basically because I don't use the client. In terms of the TV server, there isn't a lot of difference to it. This is more to do with the client, the 1.3, because you get a few extra features and that, and a few improvements. But because I don't use the client, and my system's stable, I don't feel the need to upgrade it just as yet. Eventually, what they're going to do is they're going to do a lot of changes to the TV server. So I'm probably going to wait until they actually go for a 2.0 version of the TV server, and then because then it should be a lot more changes in terms of there'll be more of a network. Like a database for everything, so everything will be a bit more like a extender, like with Media Center. So if you have one system, will have all the information, and that will network all your different media. It'll be identical on every system. So I'm going to wait for that. But there are some nice improvements, especially in the UI that I've seen in 1.3. So if you're not already on MediaPortal and you want to try it out, I'd probably go straight to that now. You may as well, because it's some nice little things they've done there.
Yeah, it's certainly nice looking. When I saw the beta of it, it looked really nice, and it's really got a nice UI. And we'll come to another product as well. So, but it's nice to see a platform that with some active development on it. With Media Center, we kind of got so stuck to. Well, we've not seen any development for so long that we're kind of stuck with what we've got. But at least on these ones, we're seeing changes and progress.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's nice to there are options. Obviously, it's nice to have these Xbmc and the MediaPortal and services like DVB Link that help you to connect everything up. It's good to see that we're still progressing in that way.
Yeah. So that's MediaPortal 1.3 release candidate. I'll link a link for that in the show notes. And related to that, I've just been working on a post actually for a couple of weeks. I've had this on the back burner. I've just got the guide to sort of building a Media Center with a Raspberry Pi, and so I posted that. But that is kind of doing something similar to you're doing, but I sort of posted around sort of how you get the media on there. But have you still using your Raspberry Pi as a sort of Media Center extender with the Xbmc in it?
Occasionally, the Raspberry Pi at the moment, I'm just it's just for tinkering with it at the minute. Yeah. I'm not using it as a dedicated media client at the moment, mainly because I don't really need to, because I don't have anywhere for it to go at the moment. So I tend to keep it, and I pull it out every so often when something new turns up, and to tinker with. So yeah, it's not something I'm doing on a day-to-day basis at the moment.
I think I got a couple of readers who kept asking me, can you sort of put it together in one place? So I've done that. So I've got there, sort of getting the card, and I know many people listening to this will know what they're doing already, but it's quite a few new listeners or new readers that are picking up on this. But one thing I found, which was quite good, was the Xbmc Android remote that got an update recently, and that's actually quite nice when you're using it with Xbmc.
Yes, it's nice that they've updated that, because I did have problems with that, and I didn't realise why, and I assumed it was because it wasn't supporting Frodo. It went doolally when I tried it. So yeah, it's nice that's been updated. I do occasionally dig that out, although I do have a couple of other options when it comes to controlling. Obviously, I mainly use Media Center remotes because they're pretty much fully supported on Xbmc. But when you need to type in something for a search, it's really handy to have that app or some sort of remote app that works with it.
Yeah, definitely. So anyway, the link's there in the show notes for that. And they talk about Raspberry Pi as well. I noticed seeing that the Model A is on sale now.
Yes, finally.
And I think, what is it, 20? I'm just going to bring the... I think it's £24, something like that, including VAT for this one. But there's a few advantages using this one over the B. Can you tell us what's the difference between the two?
Isn't the something? It was last time I read this info. It was something to do with the Ethernet port, wasn't it? The A doesn't got an Ethernet port.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and there's only one USB port and 256 meg of RAM, isn't it?
That's
on the
right.
A.
And I've just checked.
£19.33, including VAT, according to the post on the website. So
yeah, I think the other nice thing about that, which it's actually lower power as well. So if you're, for sort of media center type project, you're perhaps not worried about power too much. But if you were sort of building a Raspberry Pi on a robot or solar panel or something that you perhaps running different power situations, then having one that even just slightly lower power could help out. But I think for 20 quid, you've got a nice little standalone extender. You can kind of you can use the USB for storage. You can put a hub to it or whatever. I mean, you can clip it to your TV, and I think you've got a really nice way of building a media center project.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be quite useful. The lack of Ethernet, some people might think, there's no Ethernet port. But I think what you probably end up doing is putting some sort of powered hub on that and putting some sort of Wi-Fi USB stick or something on. And, I can see really good uses for that. You can, as you said, have it in a bedroom or, even commercially, I can see uses for it, doctors' surgeries, that sort of thing, where you can have like a little stick with just having like advertising and the rolling information on it, and then have that running in the background, low powered monitor. Really, it'd be quite good.
Yeah, because I suppose with the size of it and everything, you could build it into a little box, complete with USB stick, and it's even power it from the USB. I know some people have powered it from the USB port of the TV.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so one in and one. So anyway, links for that in the show notes. But I think that it's another good milestone for the Raspberry Pi project, and £20. Even if you were just thinking whether you could do anything with it, I certainly had my money's worth out of it, just tinkering around and learning things.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's been a real fun to play with, and like you said, it's for that sort of price. You can mess around and with a bunch of SD cards, and you can do all sorts of different things, at a time, and not have to worry about breaking something.
Yeah, absolutely. And another platform that's been updated this week, I don't know if you've used this at all, is Media Browser, version 3 has been announced.
I saw, yeah. I've not. I used to use Media Browser when I used to have a Media Center, but I've not used it in quite a while. But yeah, that's another one that development keeps going forward with, and it's always been a very beautiful looking plugin and service there.
Now, we hope to have. I think we're going to have one of the developers on in a couple of weeks talking about it. But really, if you've not seen it, the best way is have a look at the post and have a look at the video that they produced. But they're kind of changing their architecture around a bit, and it's actually pretty much the way that you're doing it, with a sort of client-server architecture.
Oh, right, I see, yeah.
So what they're planning to do is, or what they are doing, is they've got a central server where you manage all your content and your plugins for all your devices. And then there's, for Windows, there's a Media Browser Theater client, which is your front end. But then there's a HTML5 client, there's Android client, there's a Windows Store client, so it works on RT and Windows 8, and there's a Windows Phone app as well. And I think really it is a competitor to Xbmc, really. And but this architecture could work well for me, where I have one machine downstairs with doing all the serving, and then I could pick up the Nexus 7 or my Surface and play the content on there. Because part of the problem with the Surface is, because is all the transcoding and things. So anything that helps doing that out with, and perhaps doing on-the-fly transcoding, would be really good.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I can see why they've gone in this direction because obviously, this is a way to keep on top of things and not being, backed into a corner, really, so to speak, in terms of what you're supporting. So I can see this is the way forward, and it's definitely they've definitely got the skill to pull it off and be a good competitor to something like XBMC because they have, they'll beat them to the punch really, if they can get the server client sort of model out really, because that's one thing the XBMC could do with it hasn't got. If you've got different XBMC installations, they've got everything's built in terms of all your metadata and for movies and TV and everything, but it's not centralized, not like Plex, something like Plex has done. But Plex is still a little bit too, in my opinion, a little bit too fiddly in terms of the different things they do. Whereas if they can get this right, they'll be beating MediaPortal and XBMC to it.
Yeah, I think, and it looks really nice as well. So, I think from the post that they put out, the beta is out in March or during March with general release sometime in April. Like I said, though, we're trying to get one of the developers on the show as well. But I think it's an open source project, isn't it? I think so.
I believe so. I believe it is. Yeah.
Which like XBMC as well. So it seems a good way of getting the community to develop develop around these platforms. But certainly nice looking, and it's great to have some alternatives as well. You've got the choice of XBMC, MediaPortal, Media Browser, Media Center. You really have got a lot of flexibility. But I think having the idea of having cross-platform, because I think more and more people now are having multiple devices. Like you said, you've got an Nexus 7 and you're running Windows and you're running Linux, and some people are running iPads and some people are running Windows, and having all these different devices in the home and being able to share everything out, I think is a great idea.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it becomes, although it's an enthusiast area, but that's what we want. We want the flexibility. I know it's not a mass market appeal, but that's the flexibility that we want.
Definitely.
Right, something slightly different, but certainly mass market, is the Android app for Sky Plus was updated this week. I don't think you're a Sky user, are you?
No, not a Sky user at all. No.
So basically, the iOS version has remote control features and some sort of planner management features on the app, and the Android version didn't. It was really just a remote record type feature where you could browse EPG and schedule recordings. But the new version that was out for Android that was released today, I think it was. I've lost track of time. When is it? Today, yes. Has the remote, as well as the remote control features. It's got, as the remote record, it's also got remote control, so you can do things like up and down and swipe through. There's quite a few times we've been watching TV in the front room and I've been playing with the iPad app and accidentally swiped up and changed channels and stopped things playing and got shouted at. What are you doing, fiddling with the TV? But anyway, so you can fiddle with your TV from Android now as well, and actually it works quite well on the. I had it on the Nexus 4, but on the Nexus 7 it works quite well as well. So it's kind of got gestures and it's got like a trackpad thing that you can swipe through up and down. And but I must admit I use it mainly for scheduling recordings. So if you think, oh, I want to record that, or you see an advert, or you think, oh, I want to record something, I tend to use the remote record rather than going through the planner, because you're not disrupting what's going on on the viewing.
I understand.
Yeah, something which I used to do with some of the Media Center apps as well. So anyway, so it's been updated, and you can manage the planner, and it's a free app. So if you've got a Sky Plus box, then you might as well get that. If you've got, for the remote control to work, you've got to be on the same network.
Yeah.
So you can't sit at work and disrupt the view of what's going on at home. Another app that I want to mention this week is In Control for Media Center. I think we talked about this last year, but version 3.1 has been released this week. So In Control is a remote control app for Media Center and an iOS one. It looks very nice, actually. It's got EPG in there and lots of metadata and everything else. and 3.1 just come out this week. There's a new server part, so you have to install the server and then you can get the client app. But some of these media center remote apps are really nice now, especially like the seating one. There's really a lot of work going into them, so really nice looking applications.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another app that Microsoft released this week, I couldn't test, but looked quite interesting, is My Server for Windows RT and Windows 8. So it's in the Windows Store. Have you got a Windows server in your house?
I haven't, no.
So I've got 2011 home server 2011, but this requires 2012 essentials. But basically, once you install the app on your through the Windows Store, and then you can browse files and do offline files and sort of sync things and manage the server almost. But I found it wouldn't work with 2011. It kept going about certificate errors, so it's not something I've ever tried. But nice that Microsoft are actually starting to release a few Windows Store apps for controlling their various of their products. I actually keep meaning, I think I might have to build a new Windows server. On my current home server is actually not doing anything at all, so I think I might as well repurpose it and give that a try. Oh, mention about the remote controls as well. I don't know if you're into the social thing on TV, the Xbox stuff.
I've played with a couple of the social TV things like Miso and Get Glue and stuff. So I'm not sure I've heard of this one.
Yeah, Xbox is one that's quite heavily advertised on TV. I've seen it a few times, and I've tried it out. It's got things like what's trending, who's watching, and that kind of thing. And it's there's an iOS app, but they've added the Sky Plus HD remote recording facility as well, so you can do remote control as well as a guide stuff and sort of picking channels, so you can see what people are talking about and schedule it to record or whatever. So if you're into that kind of stuff, sort of broadcasting what you're watching, then have a go.
I used to have it linked to when they used to work. I think the plugins work very well anymore, but there used to be one for Xbmc, but I think I annoyed everybody who used to follow me on Twitter and Facebook, because every time I'd play something, it would tell people what I was watching. If you watch a bit of TV every week, you're gonna get people going, all right, I don't want to know.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yeah, it seems kind of a good idea. Yeah, it depends.
It is, but you forget you're doing it if it's automatic.
Yeah.
So I think I soon turned it off and I started being more selective, and I think it's a little bit better that way.
Yeah.
I did it more for the I think it was the what was it called? I can't remember what it is now, but it was one of them that had that's got a server, a web. It transmits everything to a server online, and it basically keeps a track of what you've watched and what films you've watched and everything. But the beauty of it was you could get information back. And the reason I used it is because it would update my Xbmc database to tell it what I've watched and what I haven't. So if I watched something downstairs, and then it would send the data up to the server, and if I went upstairs and used Xbmc, it would pick up the data from the server. So it was a way of sort of keeping my my databases in sync. But that stopped working, so I ended up switching it off. But that was the main reason I used it.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing that, and that's perhaps something one of these services like Media Browser, MediaPortal, and Xbmc could sort of build that functionality into. Especially if you're at one location, you watch something, then you go to another. Like you said, the scenario, you're watching one room and you go to another. If they could centrally manage that and then sync it up, that would be pretty good. Almost like the extender model. Yeah,
that's the best thing about the extender model was that you could pick up where you left off, and it would keep a track of what what you have watched and what you haven't watched. I think Plex does this, but I've never really tinkered with Plex, so I wasn't really keen on it too much for some reason. But it's about time we got that in some of these other platforms. But it's not quite there yet. As I say, you got the MediaPortal's looking into that, and Media Browser looks like they're going to be doing something similar. So fingers crossed we'll be getting that soon.
Yeah. The problem I found is once you go down the route of something like Sky and you get all the premium content, but it's totally locked into that device, and there's no where you can record something and then watch it on another device. You know, it's a total silo, and it's a shame that's the way. I mean, I know that they've got the Sky Go and things, the streaming things, but not everything is available, and it is a shame, really, when you get all this, great content locked into one box in the front room, and there's no way of sharing that around the home or outside on one of your devices.
Yeah, very true. I don't suppose does Sky, even if you've got multiple boxes, do they have something similar, or are they totally independent as well?
I haven't tried it, but my guess is that they are independent, and if you watch, whatever you record on one, you watch on that one, and you can't go to another and watch it. I don't think there's any synchronization at all.
Right, I see.
Yeah, which is a shame, but I can see that if they're pushing the streaming, then maybe that's not as much as an option going forward, because if everything's available on demand, then you don't really have to worry about recording stuff and going to another location. It's just that I found at the moment not everything is available on demand, and so you end up with things that you wouldn't necessarily watch.
True, yeah. I suppose that if you got, for example, Netflix works really well in that sense, because if you watch something on one Netflix device and you stop halfway through, it remembers, and then you can go to another device and carry on from where you left off. So, I can see that that's not their focus. Won't be to get this system into existing PVRs and things. So you probably will have to wait for on demand or some sort of third party to do it. But as I said, you're locked. If you got somewhere like Sky, it's the only way to officially get the content. So you're pretty much stuck, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. But I like the idea of these things being linked together. So I think maybe in the future, I think the Netflix model probably works about the best, really. I think that is a good way. How do you go on then for you accessing sort of that? Do you use Netflix on any of your devices? You mentioned I think you got another device for it.
Yeah, I used to use plugins for Xbmc and for MediaPortal and various things like that. But Netflix keeps updating its API and then breaking these third-party unofficial plugins. So I ended up not bothering anymore, and I ended up buying a Blu-ray player anyway for the downstairs, and I made sure it had a Netflix app on there. So downstairs, we got that, and upstairs I bought a little a WDTV media streaming box. They're about 80 quid or something like that. And, it works pretty well. I don't use it for much else other than Netflix, but that's because I've got Xbmc anyway on the computer up there. So, but we do watch quite a bit of Netflix now. So we thought it would be worth the investment and of getting. Although I'd rather have everything in one place. Netflix is one of those things that it's only really available on consumer devices, and the PC version isn't particularly good. You're limited to a web browser. I know Windows 8 has got an app for that now, which I've not really tried. But I've heard some good things about. But
yeah, it's actually very nice.
Yeah, if you're on Windows 7, you pretty much have to use the browser, and so. I decided just to cut my losses with Netflix and just get a separate device for it. And, you get the benefit of, the 5.1 audio and things like that. And, it's a lot easier to navigate. So basically that's the only thing I don't use media PCs for at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I've got Netflix, and we're just trying Love Film at the moment, and that's great, but when it comes to something like the Surface, there's just no way you can play back content because the Silverlight player doesn't work. There's no special app, so because the Netflix app doesn't, the Netflix web browser doesn't work, but there's an app, so it's not a problem. So I'm kind of missing out on that. But as I was mentioning to Gary last week, the Love Film works really well on the TV. I've got a Samsung Smart TV, and it works really well on there. And actually, the video quality seems better than watching it through a PC. But I'd like to see a Love Film app that I could then get it on the Surface. But when it comes to sort of XBMC, really, you're not going to get these surfaces, not for a while, is because of the sort of they're always worried about copy protection.
Yeah, of course, because obviously being an open source project, it's not, a lot of the big companies that they look they don't trust these apps and things because they think, like you said, they're going to be people trying to rip the stream or whatever, and you do get a lot of third party sort of grey area sort of applications for these systems. So, and they look at those and they see what people are doing with those, and they think, well, we're not going to support it, and I can see their point of view. But like you said, that was my, you mentioned about the TV. That was my sort of line of thinking. The next time I buy a TV, I'm no doubt it's going to have Netflix built into it anyway. Yeah. So it's not going to be an issue at all because I can just press a button and go into the Netflix app without having to worry about it. So I'm not too worried about that, at the moment.
Yeah, it's just quite. I've got to do a post on this really, but for years I've had a PC connected up to my TV. And previously it wasn't a smart TV, so everything went to the PC. So Media Center, I did the Blu-ray watching, Netflix, whatever I wanted to do was all done on the PC. Now I've got the smart TV and the Skybox. So the Skybox is doing the TV, the smart TV is doing the Love Film, the Netflix stuff, YouTube if I need to, or even Skype. So it's relegating the PC down to sort of doing the things like Xbmc and sort of the Blu-ray stuff, and it's kind of making the sort of the home theater PC less useful or less relevant and less necessary as the TVs get smarter. I mean, even things like if you've got content that's downloaded on, you can put it on a USB stick and just plug it in, or you can browse a DLNA server. So it's even that sort of using XBMC, you probably don't need to use it as much now because you can push content from somewhere or pull content through the browser, through the DLNA browser.
Oh yeah, I think the only thing keeping HTPCs going is the recording, and like you said, everything's going. Eventually, everything will be on demand. So we record now. I've got three tuners in mine, and they barely get a use. And the way mine's set up, I can record multiple streams anyway, and it never breaks a sweat these days. There's less and less that I'm, recording, because a lot of it's, if it's on iPlayer in half an hour, what's the point of recording it? Sometimes you may as well just watch it through that. It's like, but the only thing keeping these going at the moment is the PVR functionality, and the irony is we're getting more and more of these applications supporting PVR. XBMC is now officially doing it and everything, but the trend seems to be going away from that. All the big companies are not interested in recording TV these days. So that's a bit ironic.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it is a shame. But anyway, so I'm going to do a post on the smart TV stuff. I need to review my TV at some point as well, but too busy watching it. Now, another post I want to mention is I talked last week about my Surface, and when I was away at CS, it was doing great service, but then it broke. So I know just a recap on what I said last week. So on Monday evening last week, picked up the Surface, switched it on, and I just got sort of the mouse cursor moving around and nothing else. Touchscreen worked, but it wouldn't actually do anything. So I did hold the power switch off, wait for it to come back on, switch it back on, and it just stuck on the Surface logo. Didn't go any further, and that was the end of it. So I did all the usual things. Tried to boot from a recovery partition, and you wouldn't get that, and tried USB and all sorts of things, and Googled lots of things. Anyway, it turns out there was nothing you could do with it. So I completed the warranty request on Monday evening last week, and there was two options. There was advanced recovery, we call it advanced warranty, and just the standard warranty. So the standard one, you return it, they either repair it or send you a new one. And the advanced replacement, they swipe your credit card effectively, but the one you purchased it with, send you a new one immediately, and you send the old one back, and they don't take the charge as long as you send it back within 10 days. So that was on Monday evening. So we recorded on Tuesday, and I still had to sort the broken Surface. On Wednesday morning, the brand new Surface arrived, which is the sort of the one I've got here now. So my Surface fully working. So by Wednesday after about an hour or so, whatever, I was up and running because I have an SD card with all the media content on. So I just swapped that over. I use SkyDrive and Dropbox for most of my documents, so I don't think I lost any documents. So I installed the apps through Windows 8. So it's just things like signing back into websites, configuring a few bits and pieces, put your Netflix login back in and all some of these things. But that was it, really. All my shortcuts were there and everything else. So really very fast turnaround. They sent me a box with the new one. They sent a packaging in the box to send it back, so which was prepaid. So I arranged that collection on Wednesday morning, and on Thursday morning they collected it, and it's gone back to Microsoft now. So,
That's really
yes,
good service.
Things shouldn't go wrong. It shouldn't have broken in the first place, but it did, and things do break. And I think that is a very good service. Service. I got this problem last week. Service. Assuming they don't try and keep claiming it never returned or something, then. But they collected it. UPS collected it anyway. So, yeah, all in all, I think it was pretty good and a nice way to avoid being without a device for a length of time. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't critical. I could have got away with doing it, just sending it back, but I wanted to see what it did, and so fair play to Microsoft. I've got the Surface back up and running. So only had a couple of days of downtime. I think that's pretty good, pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you hear a lot of horror stories where you have an issue and you end up having to wait weeks or even having problems actually getting them to exchange things and things. So it's refreshing to hear a story where you're getting fantastic service.
Yeah, and I think quite a few people say, "Oh, maybe you should just go to an app. If you've got an iPad, you could take it back to an Apple store." Yes, you could do that, and you could make your way to an Apple store. But I think this was as good a Surface as that would have been anyway. It was probably I wouldn't have got that to a store within a couple of days anyway. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think it was a good job done by them at Microsoft there. And someone did say they learned from the Xbox Return program, which I suppose they had plenty of experience with. So anyway, so that's a nice thing. If you're thinking of buying a Surface, then you've got that. I believe that John Lewis, which is the other place that's selling them apart from the online store in the UK, they have a 2-year warranty program, and I don't know how that works. But anyway, I was quite impressed with that. I think a few people have started to preview some of those this week. I think it's the weekend that they're out, but I haven't read any detailed reviews yet. But don't know what's your thoughts. I've not really spoke to you since all this has been out. So, if you fancy Surface,
I can't. For me personally, at the moment, I don't feel a need for one. I can see what where they're filling a gap in the market. And definitely, obviously, you're a Windows user. It's definitely filling a gap in terms of the portable tablet device and things like that. And I think the Pro, I think some people had some issues with the RT. Like you said, there are some limitations. But I think once the Pro hits, I think that's when we're going to see people sort of waking up to it and thinking, this is a very good alternative to Android and iOS, really. Especially if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, it would make sense. For me personally, I wouldn't find a use for it at the moment because I don't really use my tablet device. It's more of a consumption device anyway for me. So the Nexus, I think, is a brilliant device. I got switched from an iPad to one of these, and I'm very happy with it. So at the moment, for me, no, not really.
I think for me the Surface Pro would be too much like the laptop I've already used at work, and maybe too much like the MacBook Air that I've got. Whereas the RT version gives me that sort of iPad battery life and and sort of a more of a consumption device as well. So it sort of fits in my needs. I mean, I've talked about it on the show last week and how I used it at CES. So I think if the Pro one had the 9-hour battery life or whatever of the RT version, then it would be a no-brainer. But it doesn't, and I think that's still the biggest issue for me.
Yeah, as I said, I think they're probably going to obviously improve on that. I think it's going to be early days. You know, when we had other devices come out, they weren't. You know, the battery life wasn't always the first thing that they worked on. They wanted to get the device out. So I think, you know, in the partnerships that Microsoft have got, and obviously third parties doing their own thing with the Pro, I think eventually we're going to see that improve, and perhaps, you know, that will make a difference.
Now, some other news around this week. TVCatchup has been launched for Windows Phone. Now, I know we played with TVCatchup on Xbmc at the user group last year. So if you're a Windows Phone user, this is definitely a good app to get. Just get it installed. It's a free app, and you can watch live TV on the. I mean, it's funny. It's called TVCatchup, but it's really live TV streaming.
Yeah, it's a great service. You know, it's something I'll say we'd use the Xbmc plugin, and if you're stuck, especially if you've got something like a Raspberry Pi, it was great. And obviously to come onto Windows Phone, it shows that they're quite a mainstream service these days. You know, they started some dubious beginnings, but they've really caught on, and they're on a lot of things now. And I can't think what else they're on, but I'm sure they're on some other things. But I mean, if it's anything like the Xbmc plugin, you know, which is officially supported by TVCatchup, it's, you know, they'll do a good job. It looks nice, you know, it'll most likely have an EPG, things like that, very similar to the Xbmc. And if you are a Windows Phone user, it's definitely, in the UK, it's definitely worth grabbing that.
Yeah, I used to like when the BBC had the F1 coverage, and if I was out on sort of Saturday when the qualifying was on, I quite often use that to sort of keep track of qualifying. So I got it on the Android version, so it's quite good to see the Windows version, the Windows Phone version. But there's also a Windows Store version as well. So you've really got quite a lot of options for getting live TV now, sort of streamed. I mean, you can just go on the iPlayer now, but I always found iPlayer didn't work that well on the iPhone at the time. But I think now there's an app in there. There's in fact there's so many ways of getting live TV now that really, like you said, a tuner's becoming less necessary unless you've got bandwidth limitations like I've got quite a lot of the time.
Exactly, yeah. And say, you know, you've got TVCatchup, and you've got all the major UK networks have got their own catch-up services, like iPlayer and everything, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5. So you're unlikely to miss anything.
Yeah.
People, like, for example, like Xbmc, I've got all of those installed. You know, there's a plugin for all of them, and I could easily live without having the tuners working. If for some reason they didn't work, I wouldn't miss anything. You know, as long as I've got the internet available, and you can't miss anything these days.
No, you just need a bit of bandwidth.
Yeah, well, I'm okay on Virgin.
yeah. Don't start me on my own. Like anybody watching the video feed will see in my Minecraft look. In fact, some of the user groups, when they came and met me, said it's great to see you in person, not pixelated.
Yeah.
Which I usually am. Anyway, so TVCatchup, link for that in the show notes. Got Windows Phone, you might as well just give that a try. Talking of Windows Phone as well, a strange one really. Windows Phone app for the desktop Preview 3 has been released. Now, this is the reason I think it's kind of strange is because there's already a Windows Store app for Windows Phone, for syncing Windows Phone, and then they've got this desktop one which is a more industrial kind of Windowsy look than the Metro style one. So I'm not quite sure why you'd need both. But both of them are neither as good as are as good as the Zoom client, which they replace.
Oh dear.
So I know it's something that Jason's mentioned a few times on the show. You know that the Zoom client is a pretty rich application. It started out very basic in its life, and over the 3 versions of it, it ended up quite a nice client. It doesn't work with Windows Phone 8, so you've got to use one of the new Windows Phone apps. And the fail that there's no playback, and they're more about syncing content. The irony of it all is kind of in the notes for the app. It says if for syncing podcasts, you can use iTunes.
Oh, Microsoft have got a lot better in the last couple of years of getting all their things working together. They're getting there, but you always find the odd occasion where you have these things where things don't work, and then they've got 2 things that do the same thing and replace something else that work better, and it's like it's slightly frustrating. You want to grab somebody around the throat and just shake them, don't you, to get them to get it right. But
yeah,
I'll get there hopefully eventually.
And I suppose the other thing that's slightly odd about it is it's sort of preview 3, but the Windows Phone 8 was released in October, and so was Windows 8, and we were a long way from them. We're still in the preview stage, so you think by now it'd be sort of release software. But anyway, preview 3's there, so if you've got a Windows Phone and you want to do syncing, then you can get the app. To be honest, I have Windows Phone, and when it comes to syncing, I really don't use their apps because you can see the file system, so really I can just copy things over. But I know that Jay said he misses things like the automatic podcast synchronization and some stuff like that as well. So he's kind of missing some of the features from. I used to like the Zoom client when I had my Zoom. It was great that it would download the podcast overnight and take the Zoom with me, and it be in there the following day. Great, a great application, and it's kind of a lot of that stuff is gone now.
Is there not a good client like a podcatcher app for Windows 8, or is that one of the areas where Windows Phone 8 is that one of the areas where we're still waiting for the ultimate app to arrive?
I think so. The closest one is Bringcast, and they're doing some really good work, and they're going through there's got a new version when they're going through some beta testing of it at the moment with different releases, so it's getting closer. But when I did Windows Phone for a month, I struggled on the podcast side of things, because when I was using the Galaxy Note, and the same now when using Nexus 4, I had the podcast synced up so that they downloaded overnight, and there was settings so that it would only download if it could get Wi-Fi, so it wouldn't eat your bandwidth, and there's all sorts of things like that, and that just isn't an option on the Windows Phone ones. And part of it's to do with the platform, the way that you can do background tasking. Now they say they're getting close to that sort of automated setup, but if I have to do it manually, I forget, and then I get in the car, I think, I really wanted to download that show and I forgot to download it. Whereas at the moment, the podcast app works brilliantly for me. It just downloads every night, or I think I've set it for 3:00 in the morning, something like that. So it works really well.
Yeah, because I say that those days where you had to dock your device to download your podcast should be well and truly gone. It took Apple too long to move away from that officially, and I know there are very good third-party apps, and Android have got some nice ones as well. I use Dogcatcher on Android, which I find really good. And like you said, you don't want, it's not the sort of thing you want to have to worry about. You just want to set up your subscriptions and then set it to download, preferably over Wi-Fi, unless you've got unlimited data or whatever. That's what I do. I'll have it set up to download when I'm on Wi-Fi, and it notifies me I've got a new show.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just having a look, because this is Beyond Pod. And
right, yeah.
Really, really nice application. It just goes off and gets the feed. You can stream and things like that if you forget, but I've just got it all synchronized, and it's all there, and it's got a nice little widget as well. So I couldn't get through my 2-hour journey through the snow without my podcast.
Oh yeah.
Just say hello to John in the chat room, and a few people coming into the chat room now. So it was a bit quiet earlier on, but now a few people in there. Now this one's for Jay, so we'll mention it briefly, but he can talk about this more next week. Windows Phone 7.8 release for Nokia devices. I guess you're not a Windows Phone user.
No, I'm well and truly Android these days.
Yeah. I've got an old HD7 with running Windows Phone 7.5, and it hasn't got the update yet. But it has. But I think first the Nokia devices were getting it. Now there is a trick to updating your phone, which involves disconnecting the network and things like that as you're doing checking for updates, which is how I got Mango on the HD7 originally. But I haven't tried that yet. But for Nokia phone owners, I think it would be for the 800 and the 900. 7.8 is available, which gives you that new start screen where you can adjust the live tiles, the size, and everything else. But I haven't got it yet, so I've not been able to test it. But we'll talk more about that next week, I think. And John says it took 3 hours to get to work for him. Wow.
3 hours.
Although not as bad as last week when the other Friday when we had all the major snow. I got in. I left somewhere at 11 p.m. and got home at 4 a.m. and it's 15 miles away from here. So
Oh dear.
I had to get towed, and it was a nightmare. I think I mentioned that last week, but not good. So that is when you do need your podcasts, and you want to have as many of them downloaded and ready to listen to. Just a final story I want to mention. We've got a couple of stories. We've got emails on. I mentioned Google Play Music for Android's been updated. Just things sort of like some extra shuffle options and playlist options and an improved widget. You're an Android user, so are you using Google Play Music?
I do, yeah, I do use that. Yeah, it's a nice looking app. I've got a lot of music on my phone and a few things on online as well, so it works really well. I also use the Amazon app as well sometimes, but there's so many options on Android, you lose track sometimes. But
Yeah.
tend to stay with the Google ones, and they tend to be quite good.
I mean, when I first started using Android with the G1, however many years ago that was now, the media playback was terrible. And that's something I really didn't like. And that's why I carried on using my Zoom for so long. But now when you look at something like Google Play Music, it is really, really good. And I like the idea of having all my collection on there. And then just a subset of that on the phone that I'm currently interested in. But if I'm in a Wi-Fi zone, I can stream. You can do it over your data connection as well. So, but I stream, songs that aren't necessarily on the phone as well. So you kind of get the sort of best of both worlds. And you think, I've not listened to this one for ages, and I want to listen to this again. I can just pin it, and it'll download it. And I think it's a nice surface.
Yeah, it's very handy actually. Yeah, and it's also to be able to upload a load of your content up there, and for free. That they did recently, wasn't that? That was not that long ago, was it? And
yeah.
It's just whereas other services charge, it's really good. I've not done a lot of it myself. I've put mostly my wife's stuff up there because she's got an Android phone now as well. So, but it takes a while to get it all on. But once it's there, like you said, if you just pick and choose what you want and download it if you want to, or just stream it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I put everything on there of mine, and then even on the Surface, getting mixed. Even on the Surface, there's no app, but there's the web client works on it. So I had that working, and it's all works really well. So I quite like that. So that's a nice update with the little icons as well, the little back and forwards and things like that. So minor updates, but not bad. Finally, I want to mention Twonky Beam for Android has been updated. Now, I've used a Twonky Beam, but it allows you to download content to the phone, whereas previously it was kind of just streaming. I don't know if you're a Twonky user.
I've used it many moons ago. I've not used it in quite a long time, but yeah, I'm familiar with the service.
Well, I actually started to use it a little bit more because the Nexus doesn't have. When I was using the Galaxy Note, if I wanted to DLNA something, it's all built in. But I found the Nexus doesn't have that, so Twonky is a good replacement for that.
Yeah. I think I used some other UPnP app that was on the Play Store, which worked quite well as well. It makes everything discoverable, and But yeah, I can see where if things like Twonky have been around a while, so they should have something good working there for these devices.
It's quite nice to be able to take a picture on your phone and just throw it straight up to the TV using DLNA. I know that people have been doing this for a while, but until I had the smart TV, it's not something I could definitely do.
Yeah, I've been doing that with Xbmc. I think it's called Bubble. I think it's Bubble UPnP, the app I was using on Android, and it works very well in Xbmc, for example. A lot quicker than AirPlay. I found. I think AirPlay took a little bit longer to kick in, whereas it's pretty instantaneous with this.
Right, and finally, I've got an email, and I'm going to ask listeners to for some advice on this. So, this is from Neil, and he said he's got Media Center running Windows 8, and it's brilliant. He's made some changes to remote, and he's got Metro apps needed, so he's quite happy. But he has got one problem. He's got a couple of apps that use MCL files, and he knows where to put them in Windows 7. And they go in the sort of the folder, the C users, Neil app data, roaming, Media Center program, and then they would appear in the extras folder. But the folder's not there in Windows 8, and he wants to know where we drop them for Windows 8. Now, I've got a feeling that you can't put them in the extras folder. So I wonder if any listeners have got any suggestions on that, how to launch Media Center editions where you've just got the MCL file, because the MCL is it's just an XML file. It's kind of a shortcut really to the application, and I've got a feeling that was kind of deprecated in Windows 7, and I'm not sure in Windows 8 it works at all. I did wonder whether you could make them as shortcuts and pin them as tiles and launch them straight from Windows 8, but I'm not quite sure. So really opening that up to any listeners who've got any suggestions on that. Let me know what you think and see if we can help Neil out. It's been a while since I've done anything with MCL. I mean, I my first application I wrote for Media Center used them, but that was back in the XP days.
Yeah, it seems a bit puzzling. It's probably, like you said, it's something they don't want you to do anymore with that. So it's probably, I'm assuming these extras he wants to run a not officially supported on Windows 8 Media Center. I would have thought they were Windows 7 ones.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I think if they were normal add-ins that you install, they should automatically put themselves in the extras folder anyway. So if they're MCL files, then they're probably just more shortcut type things. But I think it'd probably be nice if you could just get them to launch from a tile, and then it would open Media Center and launch the third party the app. But that's probably asking a bit too much.
Yeah.
That'd be far too simple.
Oh, of course it would be, yeah.
Right, well, I think that's all we've got time for this week. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm glad you could join us. Save me
no problem.
Wittering on by myself. Good to catch up with you anyway. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how you get on with MediaPortal and the new version. So you'll have to keep us up to date on that.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, I will start me tinkering again, and I'll put something up on that.
Yeah. So let us know what's the best way of following you on Twitter.
Twitter's probably the best way. I'm Dangelus on Twitter, DANGELUS, and I also have a domain, dangelus.com. So all my sort of activities can be got through from there as well. Yeah,
excellent stuff. I'll include a link in the show notes to the site as well. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed that. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. We normally record 8 p.m. on Tuesdays evenings UK time. Not too much snow around here, so I'll go down. I'll let you get going. And thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome, Ian. Cheers.
Okay, great stuff. I'll stop the